Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, I hope you and your families are safe during these challenging times. Secondly, thank you for joining us for episode 2 of the GRC Virtual Supper Club. The topic is, will companies start to embrace the Zoom work culture, and how will this impact their risk environments? As many of you may know, the Supper Club is a global peer group network and not a sales event, with emphasis on sharing, learning, and ultimately having fun, bringing fun to governance, risk and compliance. Our first speaker for this evening is a global CISO for SaarGummi Group, which is headquartered in Luxemburg. He has a BEng in electronics engineering, is a blockchain technology tutor with extensive international experience in telecommunications, automotive, shipping and manufacturing. He's presented at national and international conferences and is a member of local and central government committees within his home country of Greece. Please welcome to the stage, Mr. Stelios Valtzis.
So I remember in February this year, when it was becoming more and more evident that COVID-19 is going to become something, well, let's say more trendy in the news than the royal family, we had emergency meetings and discussions about how we could prepare our organization to move to a long-term home office mode of operation. And for many organizations, the first instinct was to ask, do we have enough capacity on our VPN gateways? Is ERP performance going to be acceptable? And the shocking discovery that probably there would be no production at all has led all of us thinking a bit more complicated and performing risk analysis and drafting what-if scenarios like, so what will happen if an employee is on quarantine and accidentally spills their coffee on the keyboard? What if we need to quarantine a complete site or multiple sites where we actually store critical IT spares? Yeah. Now, sometimes the DNA of decision makers focuses them to ensure that they still have bits and bytes flowing around. They have a tendency to be happy when users can access cloud-based solutions, especially because performance and updates become the problem of the cloud operator, and because we all tend to believe that organizations like Zoom invest a lot of money on cybersecurity, so they glam in the eyes of decision makers as security heavens. Not always the case. Many organizations also have been just very happy to agree deploying any sorts of software and take advantage of the COVID-19 free offers like free collaboration or free telephony licenses. I think we all know about them more or less. However, in the IT and information security community, there is one thing that we know very well, and that is that there is no free lunch out there, even if the payout is going to be done for somebody else. So we must never accept such decisions so easily. We must always consider the impact of software to the business processes and to information security. In several organizations, the average workforce does not even know what VPN is. They are all used to go to work, do what they have to do, return home, and don't even consider reading emails from their mobile phones, let alone the possibility to connect remotely and do some extra work. So the nomadic workforce concept is just not there. People still today are used to work in meeting rooms with physical contact, discussions, pen and paper, shut down in the afternoon, go home. So if we rewind the tape of COVID-19 back to February and March, and if we play again the scenario, we are in a situation where we have to introduce the workforce to 2 new technologies at the same time. Situation has called us into the need to make global organizational changes in a rather fast and probably unstructured way. And so what better situation for a bad guy to attack? So we probably all of us remember back then that hacking groups have announced a moratorium on health organizations, but the rest of us, we had to protect our information from ransomware and other malware that could be injected by social engineering and phishing attacks. In April, Google reported that they captured in one single week about 18 million phishing emails just in 1 week. And it is about the time when EasyJet has been hacked and 9 million customers' personal data has leaked. Now, of course, there is confidentiality and secrecy regarding EasyJet's hacking. And nobody knows what really happened unless you are the CISO of EasyJet. But I think that one cannot avoid speculating that this incident could be related with a phishing attack at that time. So, lessons learned, the bad guy is always happy during the turmoil. Now, it becomes more and more evident that organizations will support collaboration, or what Lee has baptized, has called it as Zoom culture, and has made this the title of today's webinar. In the telecommunication industry, where I have spent most of my career, home office has been considered to be more of like a default setting. So it is one extreme situation, and telecom industry is very well organized to manage the risks from home office. However, there is another extreme situation, which is the small and medium enterprise, is the production facility, is the back office support function, where people are used to work on a desk and never from home. And there are risks that are too high, and we have to understand that quite well, that we cannot introduce properly new technologies in a way that COVID-19 has dictated us. So what can a CISO actually do? I tend to parallel the CISO to a tightrope walker. Got it. So I tend to parallel the CISO role to a tightrope walker. And we need to balance between the continuously evolving cybersecurity threats, the obvious lack of resources, and at the same time look forward and prepare our organizations in advance for what might come. What matters most, in my opinion, is that we have to accept the fact that at least once a major security incident will happen in any organization, and it will probably cost money. The risk is there, and Zoom culture is just going to increase the risk likelihood. Now, you can control only to a certain extent the likelihood of the risk, but you can definitely control the impact of it. So one could ask, what may be the risks of the Zoom culture? And for that, one should assess where is the value in the business process that is called collaboration. Typically, hackers will target certain business processes from where they can extract profit. And remember, unless we're talking about industrial espionage, an attacker typically is looking for high reward and quick earnings. So they will target emails, documents, and other kinds of content to inject malware and spread ransomware. They will target records that can be sold to the dark web quickly, such as credit card numbers, medical records, social security numbers, and they will target to understand your current business context in order to orchestrate their social engineering attack. And to gain access to this information, they only need one password. So they will try to trick the workforce into handing over the password via phishing attack. They also need one weak link, of course, in the chain of the business process to trick. Now, the links in the chain become weaker by home office, and there are many reasons for that. For one, employees may have children or other family members that at home that they have to attend. They might be worried about their health, the health of their parents, of their grandparents, or their security of their income. And if they are confined to their home, they might feel restless or frustrated. The boundary between work and home life blurs for people who work in the same place where they sleep. So they may feel pressure to be online when they are typically supposed to be offline. So the end result is that remote workers will lose concentration and eventually they will fall for a phishing attack. So rule number one, reassess business processes and ensure there is an IT system for every critical task. For example, do not let payments happen without approvals on systems. Then there is rule number two. All your data becomes accessible via every possible means when you use a cloud-based collaboration environment. So build wisely your policies, enforce information classification, and if possible, automate it. And that will help users feel the sensitivity of what they are exchanging in open channels. Of course, you have also to control your communication channels by investing in data loss prevention technologies. Today, there are many solutions that block emails and other types of outgoing communication, and that may contain confidential information to be sent to unauthorized audiences. Rule number three, where possible, make sure that your employees understand the meaning of confidentiality. What is confidential must remain confidential and is confidential as long as the distribution list is maintained. So the most sensitive information, like product roadmaps, intellectual property, patents, manufacturing processes, are the ones that hold value. And therefore, we have to invest in information classification by also classifying the meeting rooms, the chat rooms, and in general regulate how collaboration platforms should be used. A typical concern is when partners are forced to work from home because they might work for competitors. So collaboration tools in such cases is an issue because the partner working for a competitor will have access to confidential information. And of course, we can all agree that such cases are always tricky and you can never have full confidentiality. But there is a reason why certain multinational companies have decided to request employees to declare conflicts of interest on a voluntary basis. And in those cases, home office benefits have been examined more thoroughly. So I still have 5 minutes, but I think I will stop here. I will thank you for your attention. And all I have to do, just as a last note, is to encourage you to pay attention to all standard security measures, such as avoiding public Wi-Fi, use unknown USB thumb drives, and all the rest. They are there. There is a reason. If you combine all those measures with rules that we have just explained, I think that it should be fairly more secure to let the Zoom culture grow inside any organization.
Fantastic. And actually, I was going to interrupt you a few seconds ago. You've got a poll that you wanted to run. So I'm going to click that now. Hopefully, most of you will be able to see this. We had a few people last time that were maybe on their phone and they probably couldn't see the poll, but I'm just going to launch it now. It should be on your screens. Do you feel confident your current data loss prevention measures suffice when workforce works from home? If you can click one of those 4 options, that would be great. And while you're doing that, I'll just thank Stelios. Well, we've got a few questions coming in for you that I will do my best to ask now, or make the individual live on camera.
Sure.
So we've got one from Mark Leopold actually. So I'm just waiting for a few more people to answer the poll. We've got about 50%. I'll give it a few more seconds, and I'll just close it. We're up to 60 now. There's a few more of you clicking, and countdown's gone. Right, so poll's closed, and can you see the results there, Stelios, in terms of the spread of those results? You got 45% are saying no, we will never be able to have a perfect, and then 36 said yes, we are regularly performing. So does that surprise you?
Well, not really, but if I may say, there is a message for the people who say that they will never have the perfect measure. Let's call it that way. Yes, of course, they will never have. But as I said, our job is to basically walk on a tightrope. Okay, so yes, nothing is perfect for sure. But at the same time, we have to balance between the resources that we have, which are limited, especially these days because of the COVID lockdown. Okay, and we have to understand where it makes the most impact to invest those resources. And that's why regular risk analysis is required, and is the way that will help you understand where you should focus your investments, what needs to be done. And believe me, there are many things that can be done which actually don't really cost. Okay, and you can increase your security posture by taking small measures which may not have such a high cost, but which will really make sense. Just imagine the very simple one. Make sure that nobody from the workforce has local administrator account privileges. It's very easy. It's nothing, but it is what might save you from ransomware. Okay, so yes, there is nothing that's perfect, but a web of measures which is properly designed by a risk analysis and an impact and business impact analysis, I think is what will keep any organization safe, or at least be able to recover quickly after a security incident, and not be the ones that will file for Chapter 11 because the cost of recovery is extremely high.
Perfect. We've actually got another question actually coming in from Mark Leopold actually. I have him set up to see if his cam will come on, and he can ask it live. So let's see if it works. I've sent the request, Mark, so if you can accept that, you should pop up. We'll give them a couple of seconds to see if it works. As you can see, this isn't a well-oiled machine when it comes to me managing this panel down here, but you should have a request now, Mark. So but I'll ask it now as he's not joined. In most hacking cases, the penetration at time 0 typically results in the exploitation 2 to 6 months later. Hence, the real vulnerability will become apparent in Q3 and 4 of 2020 and later. What can be done now to be on top of that?
Very good question. So that relates to an incident life cycle, basically. So what you can do now is basically, first of all, prepare to make sure that you will be able to properly audit the incident. So make sure that you have good log files, okay, so that you will be able to understand what has happened, not react and try to see just to discover that maybe your log files are not working well. Then it's too late, and you will have no traces. Point number 2, make sure that you have ways to contain the incident the moment that it appears. Okay, and that means that you have to run some sort of analysis with what-if scenarios, okay, and see where you lack security measures. Let me give you examples. In my career, I have seen cases where there have been switches and routers that had configured VLAN segmentation, but for whatever reason, there was no port associated to that. So actually no VLAN segmentation. Okay, and then that means that the ransomware can spread anywhere.
Thank you very much. We've actually managed to get, I don't know where he is on everyone else's screen, but he's here. So let's do a virtual handshake. But we've got Martin on, who's got a question to ask you as well. So Martin, sure. I'll turn on your microphone 1 second. This is me that's muted it. So can you hear us, Martin?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi, Martin. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too. I'm just really want to follow up on the. Sorry, my webcam's in a funny place. On the zero-day question, is obviously a lot of organisations have increased their perimeter security around zero-day with technologies like Palo Alto, FireEye, etc., to prevent that zero-day and put things into honeypots. I was trying to look around, and I don't see that technology being in the consumer marketplace for people to put on their home networks. Does that then present a risk? Obviously, businesses at the moment are, because of the impact of coronavirus, are people having to work from home. Do you think they may, because of those risks of those zero-day attacks, actually retreat and bring people back into the office until that technology is out there in the consumer marketplace to put protection?
What a lovely question, I must say. And it is also one of the things that we were considering in my company, where we were analyzing the risks from bring your own device concept.
Yes.
And yeah, well, basically my personal view is that you should not bring your own device. Although it might sound like old times or whatever, I prefer to be a little bit more safe for exactly the reason that you have just described. Okay.
Yeah. So your home router is a bring your own device, isn't it? Because you've chosen your ISP, whether it be, in my case, GigaClear or.
Yeah. I wouldn't be in favor of something like that. Of course, it's not always possible, and that is why there is also another very clear rule that we try to have and we try to enforce, but it's not always easy to enforce, which is use company equipment for company data. Okay, so we don't want people to be able to use their personal computers for whatever reason. So maybe, for example, even just to access their email, or even to download, which is something which is very common in some companies, to download VPN connection profiles and use them to connect their personal desktop to the corporate network. That is a major no. So again, for all those reasons, definitely yes, we are in favor of do not bring your own device. Hopefully one day we will be able to have some cost-effective way to manage zero-day attacks in the corporate environment. Sorry, in the commercial environment.
I'm going to have to stop you there. Thanks, Martin. Thanks for that question. We've had some breaking news. You can see the ticker tape, the expensive ticker tape down the bottom here. But we've just got one more question from Fayez. Okay, so his question is, remote working can result in behavior changes as people try to carry on working, but face problems, such as not being able to print. So how would you manage the risk of people changing data classification levels so they bypass the DLP or email material to their personal email addresses? I know we spoke in depth about IP is something that's big for you guys, and accessing that and those conflicts maybe of accessing that remotely. So is there any response to Fayez's question?
Okay, so I have to admit that I have not experienced a change in classification outside of the norm. So like, for example, that we review classification on regular times. And I have not, to be honest, I have not been called to manage such a possibility. So what I can only say is that typically you should only let an administrator touch automatic rules for classification of documents. Now, if the automatic rule doesn't work well and you have to manually change the classification, it is of course always the best idea to let the information owner do that and not anybody arbitrarily. Okay, or at least have a way that the information owner will confirm the downgrade of the classification or the upgrade of the classification. I'm not sure whether there is a solution out there right now that could actually facilitate that. So basically, it should be part of manual check at the responsibility of the information owner. So regularly review and make sure that the proper classification is applied.
Perfect. I'll act as Fayez there. That's a great answer. That's exactly what I was looking for. So thank you for that. So we're bang on time, which is brilliant. Obviously, the COVID scale and the Boris did its job.